So when Erica and Matt Petrus bought the annual auction sermon over a year ago, they had no idea what the coming year would look like for them. 2023 turned out to be, as Queen Elizabeth once termed, an annus horribilis, a terrible year filled with loss, illness, and challenge of all kinds. And the Petrus family has asked me to share their story and how they've alchemized their grief. In April 2023, they went to Canada to enjoy a special vacation together. Only when they disembarked, they found out in Vancouver that Erica's younger sister, Malia Riddle, had died very unexpectedly at age 34. She passed away in her sleep from heart troubles, leaving behind her beloved husband, Zach. She was 2 weeks shy of her 35th birthday. Her shopping list for the following week was lying on the kitchen counter, and her beloved animals were all around. The youngest of 6 children, Malia, was an ever-present joy in the family, always authentic, brilliant, and funny. And of course, Erica and her family were devastated by this unexpected loss of her little sister. And then 2 weeks later, on May 2nd, Matt's beloved father, David Petrus, passed away of heart failure and diabetes, aged 83. And though he'd been suffering for the previous 6 months, they were not expecting his death so soon. David and Matt's mother were married for 56 years and had 3 wonderful children together. Matt is their middle child. A child psychologist, David was always positive, and he told a lot of jokes and made sure that his family felt loved. And one of the gifts David gave his children, other than being a Unitarian Universalist, was to call them up regularly to tell them what they meant to him and all the things he was proud of them for. Matt and his family have been grieving deeply at the loss of their beloved father. And meanwhile, Erica and Matt's wonderful sons, who lit our chalice earlier, Xander and Liam, have their own challenges to face. Xander wrestles with a chronic immune deficiency disease in which he doesn't produce antibodies. So he has to have plasma infusions every week. And Xander, you are a model of living bravely. Thank you for showing us your tremendous courage. And of course, Liam faces his own hurdles. And then to add insult to injury, in October, after suffering with multiple sclerosis for 14 years, Erica was diagnosed with kidney cancer. She had to have surgery to remove it in December and is now in the midst of recovering. Boy, when I read this, I'm like, oh my gosh, can't believe you've been through all of that. And meanwhile, the family also dealt with financial loss this past year, starting a giant kitchen remodel before the actor and writers' strike, which caused Matt's income to be substantially reduced. So they've now been dealing with a torn-up kitchen for almost a year, washing dishes in the bathtub, and not being able to cook normally. That sucks. Yes, I bet it does. And yet, Erica still showed up in my office, recovering from her surgery, with her classic radiant smile, telling me, I'm strangely grateful for everything that happened because I value life and all my relationships so much more now. Amazing. And in talking with both of them about what they hoped for in the service, they wanted to share their story, to be able to offer some hope and wisdom gleaned during life's darkest times. What courage. My friends, losing a beloved parent, partner, sibling, or child is absolutely devastating for those left behind. And I know many of you here in this room have experienced that recently or a little longer ago. Yet loss is an experience that we all encounter in life if we have the great fortune of living long enough. And Erica's aware of the fact that she's already lived 11 years longer than Malia had the chance to. And so she wanted to share how her life has transformed in unexpected ways after all the tragedies of last year. And like so many of us who love and lose someone beloved, loss highlights how strongly we love. In being broken open by the pain, we realize how much we loved. Psychologist David Kessler, one of the leading experts on grief and loss, says, "You don't have to experience grief, but you can only avoid it by avoiding love. Love and grief are inextricably intertwined." So, my friends, the extent of our grief shows us the capacity and depth of our love. So there's no shame in your grief. Of course, there's so many sources of loss and grief in our lives: the ending of relationships, divorce, losing a job, moving, chronic illness, and so forth. And each loss presents its own challenging journey. Each has its own possibility for alchemizing grief into wisdom. But today we're going to focus on the excruciating pain of losing a loved one and how we might make our way through the life-altering effects of such a loss to be able to continue navigating life again. Excuse me. For Erica, losing Malia is changing her relationships with her siblings, and she has 8 of them, bringing them together more regularly and making them appreciate one another more. It has peeled away layers of artifice between them and makes them more emotionally open and connected to one another. And Erica's family's bigotry is lessening, despite their strict LDS background. And their hearts are becoming more open to LGBTQ members of their family now. And Erica's also learning how her siblings find comfort in their LDS beliefs because of their certainty that they will see Malia again in heaven. While Erica, in the absence of that belief, shares how she finds comfort in the now, in the memories of their beloved sister, and in the moment-to-moment preciousness of all her relationships. All we leave behind is how we touch people in our lives. And Erica didn't realize how much she loved and was impacted by Malia until she died. And now she's inspired by the memories of her sister's humor, her wit and brilliance, her love of animals, her kindness, and her unwavering authenticity. And one of the things Matt says he learned from the sudden loss of his father is that he felt he didn't focus enough attention on family and people close to him. He wants to show greater appreciation for them while they're around. It's one thing to reflect on things that were good about people, like what they taught you and what you learned from them after they die. But it's another to appreciate our family and friends and our amazing community in the moment while they're still with us. He laments that too often we take each other for granted and imagine our loved ones know how we feel. Both Erica and Matt are marveling in the pricelessness of life and family, and they're living each day with greater appreciation, telling people close to them how much they mean. And this is something we all can do. And they also feel that death has caused them to examine their own lives more deeply. Are you on the path that you want to be in life? And are you spending time in the way you want to be? Could you change your life for the better in some way? Erica feels all this hardship has given her the gift of leading a more meaningful life. And she's a psychotherapist, so was already living quite a meaningful life before, with a lot of service to humanity. Both Erica and Matt feel they've become more vulnerable, more authentic and expressive, truly sharing their struggles and joys, as opposed to keeping their challenges suppressed and to themselves. And we have a community here, a beloved community, where you can share things with one another. They feel they're making more of an effort in saying yes to life and all it has to offer, to all the little moments, to feeling fully alive while they are here, to serving others as much as possible. Erica also feels that Malia's death and her cancer have inspired her to take more risks, particularly around being more authentic. Greater authenticity and vulnerability, she says, bring her more peace, satisfaction, and joy. And I encourage you all to take those risks and experiment what it means to be fully alive and whole, expressing all of who you are. And of course, the whole family attests that every moment of life has become more precious, whether it's appreciating a flower in the garden or a beautiful sunset, or laughing with friends and family. They value things in a different way. Erica reminds us we all have to climb a great mountain in life, but we can choose to do it complaining or singing. So she invites us to join her climbing that mountain, singing up it. And Matt also realizes how unimportant material goods have become, because at some point, it all goes. Life is so tenuous, isn't it, my friends? Finances can be abundant one minute and completely gone the next. So Matt challenges us to remember to let go and stop worrying so much about it all. On her birthday last Sunday, Erica remembered that Malia would always send her beautiful cards for her birthday. And though at first she found her grief reactivated, Erica intentionally stopped feeling sorry for herself, remembering she's so grateful to be alive and to be having another birthday. She considers herself fortunate to have had her tumor taken out within months of diagnoses, to have a beautiful home, cars, enough food, wonderful children, and a loving family. She says she's more aware now that she is responsible for how she shapes her life, what thoughts she chooses to think, what influences and emotions she allows herself to feel. So much wisdom has been alchemized from their grief. Thank you, Matt and Erica, for sharing your profound learnings with us. I'm sure they impact all of us. During my recent study leave, I read a book by Nick Caves, the musician and author of Faith, Hope, and Courage, which our wonderful Anna gave me as a Christmas present. He writes about the devastating loss of two of his sons and later his mother. He has also alchemized loss into wisdom and suggests that perhaps grief can be seen as a kind of exalted state, where the person who is grieving is the closest they will ever be to the fundamental essence of things. Because in grief, you become deeply acquainted with the idea of human mortality. You go to a very dark place and experience the extremities of your own pain, and you're taken to the very limits of suffering. Nick goes on to realize there's a transformative aspect to this place of suffering. We are essentially altered or remade by it. Now, this process is terrifying, he says, but in time you return to the world with some kind of knowledge that has something to do with our vulnerability as participants in this human drama. Everything seems so fragile and precious and heightened. And the world and people in it seem so endangered and yet so beautiful. My friends, we never know how long we have. This week I was shocked to hear that Tom Cull, a deacon in the Catholic Church, part of the Conejo Valley Interfaith Association, and the organizer of our most recent Interfaith Thanksgiving service, passed away suddenly. He seemed so alive with us at our last meeting just a few weeks ago. And I wish I'd been able to say goodbye and tell him how much I appreciated him, his kindness, his dedication, his hard work, his humor. And if there's one thing that we can learn from the fragility of our lives, it's that our next day is not given. We remember our dear members, Mark and James, both of whom died suddenly in a car accident and a fall over this past year. None of our lives can be guaranteed, so we must make every effort we can to appreciate one another, to honor and lift each other up while we can. And this point was driven home for me again as I listened to Anderson Cooper interview Stephen Colbert in his podcast, Grateful for Grief. And if you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend it. Anderson lost his brother to suicide, then his father, and more recently his mother. Stephen lost 2 of his brothers and his father when he was only 10 in a plane crash, and later lost another sibling and his mother. So they both have a deep understanding of the devastating effects of grief. But both have also found unexpected gifts from their grief. And though the loss lasts forever in our hearts, Colbert says the pain transforms into something else, like some kind of deeper wisdom about life, just like sour grapes turn into wine over time. Time gives us perspective on the experience. And Colbert explains that he's become more attuned to and moved by the exquisite beauty of the world, contrasting with the profound grief that we suffer. He advises us not to suffer alone in our grief and invites us to express our grief in the company of others who understand the pain of loss. And in fact, as I'm sitting here and looking out at so many of you who've suffered a tremendous loss in your lives, I'm even wondering if we want to form a grief group here for all of you to find comfort with one another. Let me know if you do. Colbert encourages us first and foremost to be patient and tender with ourselves. And Cooper and Colbert feel they've both grown as human beings, becoming more compassionate, more grateful, and not taking life for granted. It was so powerful to listen to their podcast in which both of these commanding men were moved to tears, actually sobbing, and expressed their grief freely. My beloveds, loss is an incredibly painful part of life. We all go through it at different times. But it is one of the inevitabilities of life, something that we all share. But my friends, we are here to hold one another in community as we navigate our losses. We are here to grieve and love with one another. We are here to listen and support each other. Just reach out. You are not alone in your grief. So I leave you with A Blessing for Grief by Katie Sivani Gelfand. And I invite you to place your hand, one or two hands, on your hearts and imagine this blessing going deep into your grieving or just your loving hearts. May you be tender and gentle with yourself and be cared for by those who will envelop you with compassion and presence. May you know that there is so much beauty in your grief, especially when it feels messy. May you know that the depth of your grief is a measure of the love your heart is capable of. May you cry an ocean of tears and never fear the tides of your grief. May you scream and rage and emote your pain in safe and supported spaces. And may you never be judged for the power of your expression. May you be comforted by a blanket woven of love when you feel the harsh and palpable illusion of aloneness. And may you remember in moments of despair that all life comes from the womb of sacred darkness, and that something new will be born from this void. May you allow yourself to change. May the pain of your loss awaken you to the pulse of your humanity. May you have faith in the crucible of your soul to transform this grief into a numinous song that brings you closer to your own divinity. May your experience of loss expand your capacity to extend compassion to others. And may you eventually wear your scars as luminous gems on the unfurled wings of your heart. And may you always remember the preciousness of life. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.